You spend more time with your colleagues at work than you do with your own family and your lifelong friends. But are they really your friends? And would those friendships actually exist outside the workplace? When you leave a job, how many of those friendships would actually continue? Let's have a chat about it and find out. We all naturally bond at work. We're all thrown into the mix. We've got deadlines to hit with the euphoria of targets coming in, winning customers over, getting that big sale in. We've got so many emotions going on at once. We've a lot of stress, we've a lot of pressure. We head out, we have a lunch walk together. We go to the pub, we knock back a few Guinness, and we sort of all vent our problems in work and maybe outside of work as well. And you're in this bubble that makes you think that you're in a real strong, tight friendship with the people that you work with. Psychologists call it the proximity effect. We get close to people that we're around and with all the time. It's the mere exposure effect. Being around people all the time makes you just like them. But therein is the danger. You can mistake very easily that connection you've made in work with being absolute true friendship. That person you sit beside every day and you have a bit of banter with every day and you look forward to having a wee chat with. If it wasn't for the work environment, would the two of you even meet at all in life? Would you have a conversation, or would you naturally have been friends? So work creates artificial relationships. In our own lives, we'd have met people early on in school, we'd have played with them, we'd have grown up with them, we'd have knew people from the town or the village, we'd have been in a sports club, or we'd have just hung out with the lads on the corner, and you would have developed relationships over time, and you would have bonded with people that were similar to yourself, that the same sort of interests, or they're from the same community or the same area. You played football together, that type of thing. And you had many reasons to actually form those bonds, and it very much became choice. And you had the choice to either get involved with them and be friendly with them, or just ignore them and walk away from them. Where you're in work, they're sitting there beside you and there's not a lot you can do about it. And in some ways you're sort of forced into that relationship. So basically you're talking about workability rather than compatibility. But there's a lot of benefits to those friendships. Work's hard enough to go into every day, and we all look forward to going in the morning, going round to the cafeteria, having a wee coffee, having a chat with people, finding out, call it small talk if you want to say, find out what's going on in their day, what they were doing last night, what they watched. It makes your transition into your day's work a lot easier. When you're sitting doing your job and you're stuck on something, you can lean over to the person beside you. Because you're so familiar with them, you can ask for help, you can give them help back, and you can have a wee bit of sort of small talk banter to help put the day in. And that's something to really look forward to. You know, having the wee cafeteria at work where you have your lunch together, you go out for a walk together. We're social creatures at the end of the day, and there's a lot to be said being able to unwind and do that. Take your mind off the stress of the job that you're working with. And sure, who doesn't love a bit of gossip anyway? It's really good at reducing your daily stress, but it's also really good for the job and for the business, because you start to form a bond of a little team and you work together and you collaborate together. And that really helps you get the job done and helps you get better money in the job. It helps you maybe get promoted. And you also build up little allegiances and you have an ally there. So if a manager's picking on you or something's going wrong, or maybe you've made a mistake, you're not in that day, you've got someone that has your back who'll sort of back you up on whatever's happened. They'll take your side of the thing. So they'll step in and they'll cover for you, and they'll maybe pick up the phone or do that email when you're not about to make sure everything runs smooth, knowing that you'll do the same back for them. So it's quid pro quo. At the end of the day, we're all social creatures. And if you just went into work and you didn't really chat to anybody, imagine when you went home to your own partner. When you speak, or I speak if you want to say to my wife, I always like to speak about what happened in my day. And I don't want to say, well, I've done 10 emails and I took 50 calls. You want to throw in there a wee bit of juicy gossip about Joe or Mary and what they get up to and what's going on in their life, and you want to hear the same back from your partner about what's going on in their life. That's just natural. That's just something that human beings do, and it's part of our life, and it just makes life that wee bit more interesting and intriguing. And it's great to have a laugh about other people because it's not you, if you want to say. So there's no real problem with that. It's just something that we all do in our normal everyday life and interactions. But there's a lot of hidden risks that come along with it that maybe wouldn't be in relationships or friendships that would be outside of work. There's the oversharing of personal information, finances, family, relationships, sexual things, political things, and very much so the office politics side of things as well, where you can hear too much and you can say too much. You quite often would give away too much information about yourself. You might say that my manager's X, Y, and Z, and you can be guaranteed it's human nature that one of those people is going to go behind your back and they're going to tell the manager, or they'll tell somebody else who tells somebody else who tells somebody else, and eventually it gets up the chain and back to the manager. So you don't have the same confidentiality, and you are putting yourself and your job at risk by having those sort of conversations. And it's very much a topic that you need to hold your wish on. Keep it zipped and be very, very careful about what you say, especially about others. Look, I'm as guilty as anybody. I'm an old gossip. I could be an old woman, really, and I have said too much at times. But you know, when it comes back to bite you in the backside, you learn to keep your mouth shut and to keep it tempered down. Another thing you need to be really careful about is about problems you're having in work, or problems you're having with customers, problems you're having with your management, sort of HR-y type things. Because if you take work colleagues under your confidence, you're guaranteed as well you've let it out of the bag, and they're going to feed that back. Now the problem is, you've heard of Chinese whispers. Once they tell it to somebody who tells it to somebody else, the whole thing gets exaggerated and elaborated into something way bigger than it was or should have been. And you can quite easily find yourself pulled up into the HR office to explain yourself on a topic that you had only went 1% up the line on, and somebody else had put you at 5,000%. Another issue that comes into the relationship is competition. That could be on how well you're performing, how much you get paid, what your bonus was, what the feedback from the management was, what other people think about you. That can cause conflicts with a person that one day could be your friend and the next day they technically could be your enemy. They could be doing a Caesar on you and stabbing you on the Ides of March out on the steps when you're not looking. When it comes to things like pay rises and performance reviews, because they're sitting with you and they're working alongside you constantly, they might consider themselves to be at the same level as you, or perhaps maybe even higher than you. When the management report or the pay packet comes back to say otherwise, it can cause a lot of conflict and potential issues and problems with that friendship. And at the end of the day, we all go to work to earn money. And when it comes to say something like an incentive on, where if you sell so much of X, Y, and Z, that you'll get paid a bonus, or you'll get a phone, or you'll get a laptop, or whatever the prize happens to be at the time, you'll quite quickly find that person will very quickly do the dirty on you. You're not in, or you're on your lunch break, or you've basically, you're off on a day's sick. They're going to take your calls and they're going to take their sales and they're going to take them through for themselves. Some might be quite brash and open about it and say, well, you weren't in, I got that in and sorted it out there myself. Or they might do it sneakily and just take them on the side, hopefully that you'll never find out, that type of thing. Every relationship has a psychological contract. There's unwritten expectations that exist within every friendship. Work relationships can very quickly blur the lines on what those expectations are within the relationship. They could be expecting favours from you, like, you're over target, Paul, this week and I'm a bit behind. Could you send me over those 6 sales? Sure, I'll give them back to you sometime. That can be a difficult thing to be at. Certainly you may want to help them out, and honestly I did quite a lot in my time. And in no time I get helped out myself. But when that becomes an ongoing problem and they aren't resolving their own issues or they aren't improving, they can then expect that every month, at the end of the month, you're going to get them out of hot water, which in the end is going to cost you yourself a lot of money, because you're going to take home less and your figures aren't going to be as good as they should have been. And you can find yourself grifting into trouble the same as them because of the weaknesses that they had. They may also expect you to cover mistakes. That's okay when it's a minor mistake. Say they dispatch something off to the wrong place. You could ring the customer, get it back, get it sent off to the right place, make an apology. Small things like that happen every day, and we all work as a team and we all cover each other. But when those mistakes become quite commonplace, sometimes they can be actually quite deliberate, or they could even be fraud and theft involved in them, and they're quite expecting you, maybe because of you've fixed things in the past, one, that you'll fix this or you'll cover for them, which actually could put your job and your family at risk. They'll also expect that you'll have their back in every dispute. So if they're in dispute with, say, another colleague, or some incident has happened that involves HR, they might well expect that no matter what's right or wrong, or what really did happen or didn't happen, that you'll put forward a picture that supports them, and they will expect you 100% to have their back. And at the end of the day, in a job, you have to be honest and you have to do the right thing. That doesn't necessarily mean you do the right thing for them. So you work in a big office and there's maybe a couple of hundred people there, and you probably know everybody. Some people you know in passing, you go, hi Joe, how are you, how's your day, that type of thing. Other people you might be really friendly with, you would go for coffee breaks together, you go have lunch together, you might even meet up on a weekend or an evening afterwards, or you might even bring your partners along, or you just go out as a team together. But when it comes to you actually leaving the company or early retiring, and many of those friendships would you expect to actually maintain? To be honest, the number is very low. Now, that's not really a problem. At the end of the day, people go to work because you're there to pay the bills, to pay your mortgage, to raise your family, put food on the table, that type of thing. And we all have these relationships in the office. It just makes life in our day easier. Everybody, it's like having a work wife, if you want to say, that's a term that's used quite a lot. That relationship exists within the office. When you take that dynamic away and you're no longer in the office, out of 100 people, there's maybe only about 3 people that you'll actually ever keep touch with. But that's not really unusual. That happens through all jobs that you do. But even things you do in your life, you went to school, how many people do you still keep in touch with that you went to primary school with, high school with, university? Some you do, because at that early age you do make lifelong friends. Other ones drift away. I think there's this common psychological thing they've come up with now, and they call it the 5-year rule. Basically what they're saying is, within any given time, within 5 years, most people in your life either move on or disappear. And that's just the way things are. We live in a very open world now. We all can travel, we can all move about, we can all change our location, our job, our life on the spin of a dime. So you're going to lose people from your life constantly unless you put the work into trying to maintain it. So even the last job I was in, I got on really well with most people, and I would have said there was at least 100 people in there that I would have communicated regularly on a daily basis, and I would have said I'm quite friendly with them. Having left now, I'm out of there about 6 months, there's about 3 people that keep in touch with me, and I keep in touch with them. And what surprised me, they weren't even people from my age group, they were younger people. And I think perhaps they looked on me as being the village elder, and maybe that fatherly figure, someone that was always there to help them. They thought maybe there was somebody I could learn from, or they could learn from, that type of thing. And they have kept in touch, and I actually love that. And I do like the fact that they do turn to me for help and information and guidance and things. It's a nice thing. There's the other people in there I get an odd message from, I send them an odd message, and to be honest, it's like when you joined Facebook years ago, you contacted everybody signed up, we all sent each other one message, and then we never heard of each other again. So work's no different. So one of the big things that comes off it is, when you go into early retirement, your work was such a big part of your social interaction, it actually can become a big loss to who you are and what you are, and what you actually perceive yourself as being. So it's hugely important when you make this move out into early retirement that basically you try and set up a new social outlet for yourself. Be more neighbourly, interact with people around you and in your community, join sports clubs, take up golf, take up chess, take up fishing, do something that gets you out and about, even if it means just going out for a long walk. I go out for a walk every morning here. Actually, I do about 5 walks a day. I'll do a bit of work like this. I'll go out for a walk, get my thoughts together, come back in, give it another whack. But on those walks, I bump into lots of people. And because I'm out quite regular, I've made some really good friendships with people locally and nearby, which is something I've never done before, because I'd have been rushing off to work, I'd have been in work all day, came out of work, make the dinner, go to sleep, rinse and repeat. And I never got a chance to actually interact with the community that I actually live in here locally, where now I'm getting to know everybody and they're getting to know me. So really, when it comes to work, you need to set up healthy boundaries. What I mean by that is, when you think about it, you spend so much time in work. You might spend, if you take sleep out of it, so your interaction in life, work might take up about 80% of your free time, because it's Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 or 6, plus overtime and things like that. So those people that are around you are probably one of the most important interactions socially that you're going to have. So you need to have those friendships with people. You need to trust in them. You need to give them a certain amount of information, because you just need to interact and have that banter and have that wee bit of gossip and be that little bit open with each other. It makes your day go easier. It makes you look forward going into work, because you're not only going in to do whatever it is you do, you're going in to speak to Joe and Mary. You're going in to hear about what they get up to at the weekend. You're going in to hear about some story that they were telling you that they were about to do an update, so that you can take that in, have a laugh about it, you can home, you can share it with your wife, that type of thing. But you must set a boundary around it, and you must try and not give too much information away that will expose you, your finances, your life, that might cause jealousies, that might give them a reason to dislike you, to stab you in the back, to do something against you in a negative fashion. So it's just like one of those life lessons. When you're a child, you start out in relationships, you say something, somebody doesn't like it and hit you a bop in the mouth, you learn from it. In work, obviously, you can't do that. You'll be sacked and out the door. So it's just the same sort of thing. Learn to set boundaries with the people that you're working around with. Be open, be friendly, be frank with them, engage with them, be interested in them, listen to what it is they've got to say, tell them what you need to tell them, but don't go any further in that because you're bringing so many risks in. Those risks aren't going to be like a little argument that blows over between two kids. That's something that could go to management and HR, and it could have a really serious detrimental effect on your career and your money and your life. So really try and separate your professional reputation, your social life and your private life, and put sort of walls between them. Move slowly, trust slowly, reinforce what your thoughts are about this person by what's happening and the feedback you're getting from others around you and not just the person you're interacting with. So I know in these YouTube channels, because that's where I got this idea from, I watched a lot of people and it was all negative. It was, these are not your friends, do not trust these people, do not interact with them. And even in the comments I saw a lot of people saying, I go into work, I do my job and I go home and that's it. But if that's 80% of your life, that's a very sad way to live. I'm a human being, I'm a social creature. I need to interact with people. I need to give my trust out to people, but I'm wise enough now to know that that trust will be broken. The same way as any friend that you have from time to time will break your trust, any family member will break your trust. You only know you've got a true friend when you feel pain. The two of you get over that pain and you come back stronger. So without putting yourself at that risk, how are you ever going to develop a relationship or friendship with absolutely anybody? I've worked in many places throughout my life, and every company I've worked in, I would use that magic number 3. There's probably 3 people in every company that I keep in touch with. I have friends that I speak to on WhatsApp and I catch up with them maybe 3-4 times a year. And they're people I worked with in a company almost 30 years ago. So if you can walk away from a company and have just a few good, decent wee friends, you've done all right. The rest of them are just acquaintances. Acquaintances come and go. Make the best of them for your own good and for their good. Be polite, be kind, enjoy it, and it'll make your work life a lot better. So I have a counter argument to that negativity. They're not your friends, but they are your friends. They're just a different type of friends than your work friends. And as long as you understand that, you'll get through this minefield okay. So if you like these wee chats that I do, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe down below my new channel. I really need people to log on. Subscribe and sort of help me along the way. And I look forward to seeing you the next time. Thank you.
Hello, welcome. You have no time to retire